What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Press X podcast. Today, we're going to be doing our top 10 Wii list. This is very similar to something we've done for multiple consoles now, where we each made our own top 10 list, and we will be comparing them, basically, and issuing out points to each game on our list. Number 1 is going to be worth 10 points. Number 10 is worth 1 point. We'll add them together. We can't really break tiebreakers, but we'll figure some out if some deserve to be higher than the other, we think.
We'll probably be all over the place.
The only thing that could be an issue is if we somehow get to a spot where there's like 11 games that should all chart, and we're like, then we have to eliminate something. But
we can talk it out.
We'll figure it out. With that said, the rules of this are pretty simple. They had to originally debut on the Wii, so no ports. If it had to launch on that system, no ports of other games, no virtual console stuff, anything like that. And only one per franchise, which is a big rule with Nintendo always, because they they're kind of the franchise machine, as you like to put it.
And spin-off machine, yeah.
Yeah, so only one from each franchise, so you won't be seeing, Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2, or Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, stuff like that.
Or maybe not at all.
I'm going to go ahead and say this is going to be a very controversial list. I have one choice on my list that I think people are going to be a little shocked by.
Yeah.
But they can deal with it because then you have your list and they can pour the hate on you, and I think I'll be okay.
Yeah. My list has gone through a bunch of alterations, but I think it's the placement that might get me a little flack with whoever is having a bad day out there.
Yeah, mine's a little rough. I really stand hard behind my top 10, or top 5, but my back end 5 I can move around. Whatever. I do want to say something. I made a huge mistake on the 360 list.
Yeah.
And the PS3 list, I don't think it would have affected anything. I've remembered a game that launched on those systems that I totally didn't put on the list, but it's okay because I think it's best on the Wii. So, when we get there, we'll talk about it. Are we ready to dive in?
Yeah, just to kind of go over like the general mindset again, this is like hey, you're coming to one of us, or I guess the Press X show, and you're saying, I just bought a blank. In this case, it's the Wii for this particular video. But you just bought a Wii, and you want to know 10 games that you should absolutely buy.
Right.
So even though you mentioned, one of a franchise and had to launch on the system too, there's a little bit of, you may not pick platformer because you want to throw in maybe a sports game or something, a party game with this system, because I like to give each system sort of like an identity, and this one is the party game.
It's not the single-player game?
No. This is the party game machine. This is also the I don't play video games machine. So, like, you're going into this, and maybe it's your girlfriend, your son, your daughter, your grandma, grandpa, and you want to give them a simple controller and play a simple game. This is your machine. So,
sure. All right. With that said, let's hop right in. I'll start out, I guess.
Okay.
With my number 10, and that is Dead Space Extraction. So this is a light gun, basically, shooter. You use the Wiimote, you point at the screen, and you shoot things. Probably the best one on the system. There's a couple of them. There's some more kid-friendly ones, for sure. My actual personal favorite is a port, so I can't put the House of the Deads on the list, unfortunately. But this one's totally way better than it should be, is probably a good term for this particular light gun game. But yeah, the screen moves, controls by itself. Maybe you get to make some choices here or there. And you're blasting the necromorphs, I believe they're called. So yeah, just a totally competent light gun shooter game. Like I said, my bottom 5, depending on what genres and things you might like, you might rank them a little bit higher or a little bit lower. But I just feel like this game, the fact that it is not bad at all, it's just totally, competent light gun game, gives it a little bit more credit than maybe something that I'm like, well, I knew that was going to be.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think people bought me, because, I was still relatively young when this thing first came out. Bought me like the Call of Duties and stuff like that for the Wii, even though I was getting it for the other current gen systems at that time. And I was just like, man, shooting games just don't really work.
I played Call of Duty 3, I believe, on the Wii, and I found out.
I think that's the one.
I found out a few days ago Call of Duty 4 is on the Wii. I didn't even know that.
Who knows? My number 10, Wii Sports.
Wow.
we kind of talked about it right before this, and we kind of lump in Wii Fit, Wii Play, Wii Sports,
like
Wii
the
Sports
Wii
Resort
franchise.
So yeah, I didn't want to just litter this whole thing with them, and I can't really even though I might have logged more time into this than maybe number 9, 8, 7. It's still not really a full game.
It's still basic.
It's probably the best demo disc ever.
That's a good way to put it.
But at least that one. Some of the other ones that we kind of lumped in that group, those were more full games. Maybe more worth their price tag.
Particularly with sports, considering it had Resort come out, though it added to the complications of it. The best part about Wii Sports is its simplicity.
Yeah,
anybody gets it.
Yeah,
you understand the bowling, and if you don't get it, you're having a good time anyway, throwing the ball the wrong way and all that.
Well, too, this was the launch of the Mii's. So you would make your funny-looking
arguable Mii
like
creator should be on this list.
So you could put your favorite people on there, give them a big head, big nose, and everyone's laughing and enjoying themselves. But yeah, this is the grandma game. This is the I don't know how to play video games. It's like here, flick your wrist, sort of thing. So I think it has to be on the list somewhere, even though it's not a full game and. It was kind of lumped in with the system, so you didn't really have a choice of whether you're buying it or not. I think it has to be on there just because of what it did. So there you go. It's hard for me to say you must buy this game because, like we said, it was lumped in with the game. But I guess if you're buying it in 2017, the Wii might not have Wii Sports lumped in with it. So
right. Yeah, I'd be impressed if you found a Wii, first off, considering we've had 2 consoles since then. That surprises me. I thought that was going to be much higher on your list.
Yeah.
Shocked.
I think it's the fact that it's a demo disc, a glorified demo disc.
I agree with that.
So
I played some good demo discs, though.
Oh, me too.
So those PlayStation Undergrounds. You good? Next up?
I'm good.
Number 9, worth 2 points. WarioWare Smooth Moves. This is one of the better WarioWare games. There's been a couple of them. Some are hit or miss. I think this one is a lot of fun. Fun story about it. I almost didn't buy it because the back of the box says it's 1 player. That's not true. It's actually multiplayer, but you have to beat the game to unlock the multiplayer mode, which I think is a terrible thing for this party system that we're talking about. You should totally tell people that I think it is up to 4 player. It's definitely 2. I think it is
have
up
a
to
1
4.
and an asterisk next to it?
No, it's just a 1 player. But I remember going to the store and I almost didn't buy it because I wanted to play it 2 player, and I was like, there is no 2 player, even though I remember IGN or whatever I was listening to at the time said it was 2 player. I'm like, something's wrong here. And I was very confused, and I went with my gut, bought it anyway, and found out that you unlock the 2 player once you beat it.
Gotcha.
So it is actually a party game, but it is fun to pass the controller and play single player. Anyway.
It's been so long that, I completely forgot it was single player until it's multiplayer.
Basically the way that the games works, for people who don't know, is there are a bunch of mini games, and when I say mini game, I mean 5-second mini games. And you're using the Wiimote, which actually works really well. So it might be like pump something, doing the motion controls. There's one where you like pick a nose. There's one where you have to balance it on your hand, and they go super fast. You have to do like 30 of them, and they're 5 seconds long. And once you complete those, it becomes like 4 seconds, and then 3 seconds. So you basically go until you've messed up 5 times, I believe. But they're super fun. It's a good party game, even though it is 1 player until it becomes 2 player. Smooth moves.
And you kind of mentioned it too, but motion controls, since this was kind of the initiative for motion controls, I guess, that kind of makes or breaks a lot of games that get put on these sorts of lists or critical reception and all that stuff too. So you might see that pop up later on down the list. But number 9, just to start this off right, Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Oh boy.
We'll lead off with the fact that I'm not a Mario person at all.
Clearly.
I've said it multiple times, and the next time we do a Nintendo list, it'll be the same thing. Actually, no, never mind. But I will say that I enjoy the difficulty.
You better not have just alluded to what I'm thinking you're alluding to. But
I do enjoy the difficulty spike. That seems to be the thing that everyone knocks it for. Knocks it as in like a point off of a 100-point scale, but still, Everyone, now that I went back and checked it, and I remember at the time when it came out, it was like, oh my god, it's the hardest platformer ever.
Yeah.
They're taking such huge leaps in the Mario franchise. But no, it was pretty cool. I liked it more than the first game. I think that's pretty much a consensus for most people. But I don't know. It didn't do too much out of left field. It just kind of stuck to the same formula as always. So that's good enough to put it on a list like this for me.
Interesting. Another game lower on the list than I thought was going to be. What is your top end? I'm very confused.
You should know.
I mean, I might know like one or two, but anyway. Next up, I guess I can take some flack now. How's that sound?
Sounds good. Take it off me.
Metroid Other M is my number 8. I actually really enjoyed this game, and I don't understand why people didn't like it.
I know someone who would actually murder you.
To be fair, I do want to point out Metroid Prime 3 did launch on this console, and I didn't play Metroid Prime 3. So, by all accounts, that game could have been way better and taken the spot. I've only played Other M, so there's my little asterisk. That being said, I think the complaints that people had over Other M are kind of silly. I liked where there is that whole, like, oh, she's fighting for a guy, and that's the whole thing. And, like, that's the first 15 minutes of the game, and then, like, you play the game. Yeah. I really liked the action, how it was a little bit more violent, a little bit more action-y than the other ones with the flipping around and shooting things and down the throat and stuff like that. The exploration was fine. They do kind of lock you up. It feels more linear than other Metroids for sure, but I still very much enjoyed my time with it. There's some weird like motion control stuff that I wasn't huge on. I liked playing sideways, like with the Joy-Con, with the Wiimote sideways. I didn't very much enjoy pointing at vertical to do the first person stuff, but it was a cool idea. Not an awesome idea, and that's why it's only number 8. But I think Other M gets a whole bunch of flack it shouldn't get, and it's actually a very pretty Wii game, which I will
give you that.
It's a very pretty Wii game.
It was pretty at the time, at least.
That's
Thanks. That took a lot off me.
Don't worry, I have another one coming up.
Number 8 for my list, aptly numbered, Mario Party 8. Typical Mario Party game. I don't think it's the best one, but I think it's better than the last couple that we've gotten.
Interesting.
If that says much.
Yeah, not really.
It doesn't.
Pretty downhill since 3.
Yeah. I'm sort of like you. I prefer 1 through 5, I guess, is a good range. So I'm pretty much just happy to get a Mario Party at this point.
That's true.
Especially if we're talking all the way up to the Switch nowadays. Nothing too wrong with this one. I did enjoy the Wii controls with Mario Party. A lot of the mini games, I think a lot of the mini games are some of the best that we've had in a while.
Interesting. You like the soda can one where you gotta shake it.
I was so good at that game.
I believe you. One thing I do want to say, a problem with this one, Mario Party brings a lot of little conflict, a lot of anger between friends when you're playing Mario Party.
Yes.
Here's the problem with Mario Party on the Wii. The Wii controllers have a power button on them.
Yeah.
That is the problem.
Yeah.
One guy gets mad, the console's off, and you lost all your progress. How'd that happen?
This was the first game on the system that I made wrist straps mandatory.
That's
because
fair.
you get like the hothead guy who wants to spike the controller or something like that. Like, I don't care. Like, they were pretty durable for what they were.
They were, surprisingly.
But especially when you had like the little cool gel pad on it to differentiate them. But yeah, there's power buttons, there's throwing stuff, there's, accidental slippages, because some of these people who play these games, Wii Sports and whatever, aren't used to holding that kind of controller. This was the first wrist strap must be on if you're playing around my TV game. But yeah, it was cool. I really liked a lot of the mini games. That's probably what puts it on the list for me. Yeah.
Wii U would have had an awesome Mario Party. Could have had an awesome Mario Party, I should say. They didn't do it. Next up, number 7.
Yep.
Super Smash Brothers Brawl. So, Super Smash Brothers Brawl. I enjoyed this game quite a lot. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Melee's better, blah, blah, blah. From a technical, like, fighting game standpoint, sure. Those games aren't fighting games to me. They're party games.
Yeah, and they specifically say each time they release one that they are not intent on being competitive fighting games.
Clearly.
So,
Yeah, they're tripping.
Yeah.
And like that's all stuff that I like. I like a game that I can play with people who are younger than me, people who are older than me, and it still at least evens the playing field a little bit without feeling like I'm being handicapped.
Yeah, and you can turn on plenty of options to make up that disparity between you and person who's never played before.
So I enjoy this one. I think the roster's great. Having characters like Snake, which we'll probably never get again, is very novel. It introduced Sonic, which was a big one that we got. It was kind of the first third-party character, Smash Brothers. And I think this is one of the games that I watched before it came out so much. Like a hawk, I would go to that website and see what the item is that they revealed for the day and what the character is that they revealed.
I feel like this was the first one. I don't remember Melee's advertisements, but I feel like this was the first time that they did like the announcement, and it would be like the silhouette of the person, and it would have whatever that text is that is now joining the battle. Yeah,
I know they do that even in the first one, like when you unlock the character, but I don't know if they did it for advertising.
But I think as far as like the marketing and showing up at the conferences and whatever, I think this was the first one, I believe, because I can't remember back to Melee. Where they made such a big deal of it, and you were like, "Oh man, who's it going to be?"
Who's it going to be?
You'll see Mario fighting someone, and then you're waiting for the jump in, and then has joined the battle. So
very much like to introduce Pit, one of my favorite characters from the series, and like I said, it is a great party game.
Yes,
and that is a big thing for the system. And if you got to wait, you got to get Smash Brothers.
Yeah,
like, come on now.
If you have Nintendo system from 64 past, you have to get a Smash Brothers.
That's also a fair statement.
Number 7 for me, Mario Kart Wii. I think the thing that helped this game the most for me was the little wheel accessory.
Interestingly enough,
it actually handled very well for what it was, and it's a lot easier than holding a rectangle when you're playing a driving game. I think that helped it the most, but I think this was the first time I cared about a Mario Kart in a while. I obviously liked the GameCube version, or sorry, not GameCube, the N64 version, and then it just kind of trailed off for me as like a series until this one. And so yeah, it got me back into it. It's typical Mario Kart. It didn't do all the stupid stuff with the tracks flipping and inverted this and whatever, riding up the walls. Like
its gimmick was the motion controls, but they worked. So
yeah.
It's not really a gimmick.
Nice and simple, but yeah, I think it was the fact that it brought me back into the series, and it just did what it's supposed to do. The controls were fine, because like I said a few minutes ago, controls, because this was the first motion control machine for the most part, kind of dictate, what wins and what fails, I guess, on a list like this. So it worked, and it didn't take anything away from the game. It didn't feel like, man, if I just had a controller, I could have done that. Like, I don't remember ever seeing that. So
could you play it with a controller?
I never
feel like you could.
I never had.
I never had either, but I feel like you could.
I had the GameCube controller when they made.
Yeah, you could open the top.
Yeah,
and plug it
when
in.
they made it able to work.
I don't know if you could use a controller,
but I don't think I ever tried.
Yeah, I didn't either, because the motion control once again could even the playing field sometimes with things too, which is totally fine with me.
So yeah, the fact that I didn't feel like, man, if I just had a controller or tried to plug it in, there we go. That's enough for me. So controls worked, and it did what Mario Kart games are supposed to do.
No repeats yet. Interesting. Next up, number 6, Super Mario Galaxy 1. I like Galaxy 1 better. So this game, to me, was a really good Mario game, and that's kind of where it stops. Some people love this game. It's been called the game of the generation for the whole thing. I disagree strongly with that, and I didn't like Galaxy 2 that much, mostly because I don't like Yoshi very much. It changes how you platform, and I didn't even say that. It changes how you platform in the game, and I don't like his hover jump or anything like that. It turns what I think is this very precise, satisfying jumping mechanics and everything into this kind of slippery, weird mess, and I'm just not a big fan of it, and the tongue combat. I've never liked Yoshi. So games with Yoshi, instantly, I like them less than the ones that don't, typically, if you control Yoshi, at least. And that being said, I do like this Mario game.
Yeah.
It is short. It is easy. I mean, I know you can do like the challenge star stuff and make it more difficult. But as far as just running through it, like, you know, you can go through it in a day very easily. And it does kind of make you feel a little sick for the first hour playing. You got to get used to the running around the world and how the gravity stuff works. Like that is a new idea that hasn't been done for Mario. But I very much, as I always like to say, I prefer the 64 hub world idea where there's actually things to do in the hub world. There's some stuff here, but there's actual things to do. Oh, that's another thing. Galaxy 2 just got rid of the hub world. It was just a menu.
It did.
Yeah. So another reason I don't like it. This one had hub world to introduce Rosalina, who's my favorite Mario character.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So that's awesome. But just overall, I wanted Mario 64, and I didn't get Mario 64. I got something cool, but you know, not quite what I wanted. So Mario Galaxy 1.
Yeah, it didn't have quite the earth-shaking impact that people said at the time with yours and mine.
Yeah, I just never, like, some people really swear by the Galaxy series. And I've heard, not a whole lot, but I've heard people say that Galaxy's better than Odyssey still. And I call them crazy people. That's my term for them.
Well, it's probably better than what they're calling us. Number 6, kind of my offshoot game, or one of my 2 offshoot games, Tatsunoko vs. Capcom Ultimate All-Stars.
Wow.
This is pretty much the same group of people who do like the Marvel v. Capcom games, ones that don't suck, like this year's. But this one had just a huge list of people. I remember people at the time just being like, man, if you could only imagine the rights, like hoops that they had to jump through to get a lot of these people in the lineup, that you would, you know, do something, have a negative reaction, I guess. But anyways, like, the point of the game was just, you know, this huge mass of people. It had been a while since we had those faction versus faction type games that were good, in my opinion, and this just kind of struck the right chord. And like I said at kind of the top of the video, it's nice to have a little bit of variety, and I want a hardcore fighting game, even though, you know, whatever, people can kind of talk about the fighting game aspects of it and saying it's a little bit more arcadey. That's fine, but
no, it's definitely arcadey.
Yeah, but I want to have a fighting game in there along with some of the other stuff that we've mentioned. So
I like that choice. I didn't even think about that one.
This I think this is the best of that.
Spoilers,
niche.
it's not on my list.
This is the best of that kind of niche area that I wanted in there. So
also, Mega Man Volnut from Mega Man Legends is in the game.
Yeah.
So
there are a lot of people in this game.
Yeah, but Mega Man Volnut's in the game. It's a character we'll never see again. Are we gonna get a repeat yet? Ooh, number 5, Wii Sports. So I have Wii Sports up quite a bit higher because I do think this game, without this game, this system doesn't really exist, and that's quite possible. Also, I do think its pick up and play nature works really well. I would say if a game's bowling game and you bowl, that's a game. Yeah. The game's golf game. I mean, there's not a whole bunch of like, you know, it's a bit of a sampler dish, as you would say. But
hey, sometimes appetizers beat the main course.
That's true.
Down,
I've had some good deviled eggs. So I really do think that this deserves a pretty high spot up there. I remember the day I got my Wii. I got it for Christmas. I got Zelda, of course, and then just the pack-in Wii Sports. And I hooked it right up. I don't even think I finished opening my other stuff. I hooked it right up, turned it on, played one game by myself of whatever it was, because I knew about it, because I'd been watching G4 or whatever it was at the time. And so I knew about it. Played one game of whatever, and you know, you see Mom over there. She's like, what how do you, can I try the bowling? Yeah. And then, you know, sister, I could do the golf. And then by the end of the night, you're playing a 6-person bowling game, you know? So just a blast. Lots of, this game can easily make a lot of memories. And it, like I said, it's basically a board game. Or it's like Yahtzee, or it's like, you know, all these games that you can play with anybody. Yeah. So the accessibility of it is phenomenal. Wii Sports, the original one, because I do think Resort gets a little complicated. You got to have the extra thing or a controller that supports it, and then the games are better, but then they become even more. I don't want to say competitive, but somebody who practices it will be a lot better than other people
Yeah.
because of the subtle motions that it can pick up and stuff like that. So I do
And
think it's
then
better
we
than Resort
had some interesting game choices, I'd say, because like I said, we still lumped it in that 5-game category. Wii Fit, you got to be flexible, and yikes.
I don't mind Wii Fit. If we
Fit's
could
actually
have
pretty cool.
multiple
Yeah.
Wii games on here, I would have Fit on
Yeah.
my list as well, actually.
Wii Play was probably as good, like fun-wise, but it's just like the game choices were a little different.
Yeah.
I
I really
think you had,
only like
skeet shooting
pool.
and stuff like that. But nothing beats like the tennis, the bowling, and golf. That was the other one. I think sheer impact alone, it's got to be number one on a lot of lists. If that was your only like metric, then yeah,
Absolutely.
As far as talking points go, I think this is what got people talking about the system.
Yeah, like I said,
it wasn't even
I
any of these
remember
games.
when I was deciding if I wanted a Wii,
Yeah.
which was a little late because they were the first shipment I couldn't get.
Yeah.
And I was watching videos online of just people playing Wii Sports, and it was like a white room, just this family all wearing white playing Wii Sports,
Yeah.
and just looked like they have a blast. And I was like, I want to have a blast. And I was like, we need to go sit in the freezing cold
Yeah.
in New Jersey
Yeah.
outside of Best Buy for 14 hours and pick up. We were in line before Best Buy even closed. And oh my gosh, we were 8th in line.
It wasn't the Japanese Nintendo agents showing up at your door saying we would like to play.
Unfortunately not, no.
Those were the best commercials.
They were good. They were good.
Number 5, I wanted to get sort of the quote-unquote cult classic on here. And this is about as good as it gets as far as if you're trying to meet that definition. No More Heroes 2, Desperate Struggle. I like me some Travis Touchdown. Nice guy. I'm actually, when was 3 announced? Was that earlier this year?
It was because, yeah, it was earlier this year. It was January, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right. But yeah, fun game. It's kind of ridiculous, and by kind I mean a lot ridiculous. It's over the top. It's got a bunch of like crude sexual humor, so that was a nice change of pace to put on a machine like this where you get these types of games.
It's true.
It was a bit more, I forget what the rating was, maybe mature, but probably teen at this point.
I'm not sure. I can't even think of many flagship, like Mad World comes to mind, like these flagship M-rated Wii games, which actually may have been part of its problem.
Yeah.
Not that it obviously sold infinitely well. And
Yeah.
it was total success and has a million shovelware games. But I think part of its problem is it was viewed as kid console, kid toy.
And this kind of helps break it away from that, but obviously it didn't do too much in the area of sales. Like I said, cult classic. I don't think it sold that great here. I think critically it made just fine. It was mid-80s, something like that. I think Japan liked it a little bit more than us.
Oh, yeah.
But, if you play the game, you kind of understand why. It's almost like Japanese, not really making fun of Americans, but like just kind of being like, this is what we imagine Americans are. But yeah, it had really good controls. So once again, made use of the system that it was on. So it gets points there for me. And yeah, it was a little bit more action adventure-y, I guess. Genres are weird these days, so I don't know what to call it. Action adventure, whatever. Yeah. Combat was cool in it, and I think it's unlike a lot of games that I played on this system. When I really think about the full library of games, I don't think there's too much like this. If you take away platforming aspects of the other games, then sure, maybe there's action in there. But I don't know. I liked it. It fit a nice little spot in the library for me, and I didn't feel like I needed another type of game like that afterwards. So sort of like the Tatsunoko versus Capcom game, I didn't really need a library of fighters after that. I kind of had what I needed right there. So
also, just to point out, the Virtual Console on the Wii, really good.
yeah,
It actually their best attempt at a Virtual Console.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of classic fighting games and
Yeah.
stuff from that can't be on this list because obviously they didn't release on the Wii.
Very much
Originally.
eclipsed the release date of the Wii. Some of those games. So yeah,
A little bit. Number 4.
yeah.
I don't know if this one's going to surprise you. We'll see. Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword.
Okay.
Skyward Sword, one of my favorite Zelda games.
Mm-hmm.
Not my favorite by any means because I have a couple that I actually really love. But This one is right at the bottom of between like love and like. I enjoyed this game thoroughly when I was playing through it, and I knew about halfway through it that the Zelda fans would not.
Yeah.
But this is the story-based Zelda game. This is the more linear Zelda game, and this is the Zelda game that actually has characters that aren't just really cool and memorable. They actually have personalities, and they have character development, and they grow. And the music is really good. I believe it's an orchestra, if I remember correctly. The music in it is fantastic.
That feels right, yeah.
It uses the plus controller again that senses movement that gives you 1-to-1, or at least sort of 1-to-1 sword controls, which allows you to do things like if there's an eyeball enemy, you can spin the sword in circles, make him dizzy, then you can go attack him. They get to add some fun things like that. This is an extremely long Zelda game compared to a lot of the other ones. You do some retreading, but I feel like it's meaningful because this is the story-based Zelda. Yes, there's some repetitious stuff with a couple boss fights that you do over and over that I would have liked to see removed from the game. But I really, really enjoyed this one, and I don't know if we're going to get some sort of like remaster of this ever because of the motion controls and stuff. I would love to see this game brought back, but really enjoyed this
VR, baby.
Game. Wow. That's a big jump. I really like the items. I thought that they were unique. You got like the beetle that you can control and knock things down and grab stuff with. You had the vacuum cleaner type item. Like you have these items that you do not have in other Zelda games. So I really enjoyed it. As a problem with it that a lot of Zeldas of this time had is the intro is too long. But it, like I said, it has the character development at least to back it up as an excuse. So really enjoyed Skyward Sword. One of my favorite Zeldas. And the other thing that I really do want to point out, the villain of it, there's kind of two villains sort of in the midst of this one, and they're not Ganon. And I enjoy that very much. I think, personally, Zelda, a series that would benefit from having a different villain every time. And not just sticking to the Bowser Mario.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say you can only fight Bowser so many times.
Yeah, I actually very much enjoyed that they had different villains for this one.
I'm not surprised by that pick, but let me see if you are surprised by this one. Number 4, The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword. This is my second favorite Zelda game, and you pretty much stole my entire script for that one. Not that we made one. But you said narrative, you said characters, and you said memorable music. I'm not going to fight anyone on what's memorable in Zelda, but I feel like some games have the music and some games don't. Maybe this year's that got nominated for Best Music, we need to talk about that at some other point. But this one, on the other hand, I do agree that I think it was that full orchestra in this game. Like it felt more rounded out than the other games' soundtracks. I can still remember it. And like you said, narrative and characters is what I remember this game for. The other ones are just, I don't know. I don't like them as much. Like I said, it's my second favorite. Still not the biggest Zelda fan, just like Mario. So take my opinions, I guess, with a grain of salt. But I think if you had to choose a Zelda game on this machine, that's the one you choose by a wide margin.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Twilight Princess. I played through Twilight Princess. I beat Twilight Princess. But Skyward Sword really stuck with me. I still think about Skyward Sword. When I think about Twilight Princess, I just think about Ocarina of Time, which is kind of the same, they follow that formula.
I fell into the same kind of pattern with Twilight Princess as a lot of people did, where it's just like, it's pretty cool at the time, and then years later, like, I didn't really like that game as much as I did at the time.
Yeah, see, I wasn't crazy about it at the start. But we'll talk about some stuff like that some other time, which actually might be before. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
What are we on? 3?
Trace.
Number 3. We're getting to the nitty-gritty here. Mario Kart Wii.
This sounds right.
I'll find it later. So Mario Kart Wii, this is my favorite Mario Kart, actually. I still enjoy it. Yes. I still enjoy it definitely more than 8, and it's not close. And 8 Deluxe fixed a lot of problems that I had with 8.
Yes.
But
whole lot.
I still like this one for the sheer it was the perfect competitive game when you got a group together that all knew how to play it. You could really cut the corners, do the tricks, get the boosts. You could drift. You can really make it a competitive game.
I feel like the catch-up system was a lot better in this game, too, than what we have right now.
That's true. That's actually a problem with the game, but I'll get there in a second. Yeah. You could do the drifts, cut the corners, do all that stuff, and make it really competitive. Or if you're playing some people that aren't as competitive, the weapons and stuff will bring you right back into this one, which is actually the big knock against the game is that you could rock 12th place on purpose for the whole match and then just launch yourself to first, and that totally works with this one. There's a bunch of like rubber banding or whatever, but that makes it fun to me. It makes it more interesting.
Shell puns aside, you could turtle in the back of the pack for the most part, and blue shell your way to victory. And then, I mean, it feels like upward, like it's if you want to like get into Mario Kart comparisons, which I don't want to spend more than a minute talking about this, but like. It feels like a lot of games, like if you're in that like 3rd to like 6th, 7th sort of pack, like you ought to be getting X kind of items to catch back up. So the whole catch-up system or the comeback system, whatever you want to call it, should be a little bit more ridiculous than like a Forza or a Gran Turismo, where you earn first and you keep first. Whereas this one, if you're in first, you should constantly be fearing for your life and going, oh God, oh God, oh God, and what's going to happen? You can still kind of outskill people, but not really, because the game is just going to balance itself out.
Yeah, and I enjoy that.
Made for a lot of the best thing that I think about Mario Kart Wii, which I knew you were going to mention it, so I saved a little bit, was I think it had the best third lap, final lap, whatever you want to call it, because all the stuff was going into play. This guy's been back here the whole time, just stocking up. This guy's been in first. He's conceded. He thinks he's got it. And, you know, people want to blow up, literally and figuratively. You know, like, oh, my God, I can't believe I lost. Or like that last turn makes for a lot of interesting stories. And when you're on the party system that that the Wii was, then, you know, it makes for a lot of fun nights and stuff like that.
For sure. It might be one of the most frustrating ones to play to unlock stuff because the computer does that stuff to you, too. And you're like, this is just a joke at this point. But I will say, playing online, this is probably the best online game for their console. It probably worked the best.
Online, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say it. I spent so much time doing that. I actually 100% in this game. I got 3 stars on every race. I beat all of the time ghosts. I unlocked everything. Like, I really, really enjoyed this one. And it has my favorite Mario Kart level, which is Maple Treeway, which still hasn't made a return, and I'm very upset about it.
I like it.
It's my favorite.
Not bad.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, it was nice playing this because I had flashbacks, because I'm old enough at least to where, like, I had the Nintendo 64 when it came out, and Mario Kart of that day was the, hey, get some classmates or get some friends from elementary school or middle school and all come play and do about the same thing. So this felt like kind of a flashback for me as I played it, but this might have been a lot of people's first group Mario Kart experience, so that's what I like it for. Number 3.
Yep.
Super Smash Brothers Brawl. I think this is my second. I think it's the second to worst Smash Brothers, but Smash Brothers is so good that it doesn't matter. I think the N64 one's the worst, I guess, if I'm gonna call it the second to worst or second to last. But this one was fine. The thing I remember most about it, on top of what we've already said before, or some of the new character choices that they made in the game.
Not the best online.
My God. No, do not.
Actual worst.
I mean, it's if you ever get a time machine, don't go back in time to play this online. It was all over the place. This is when, I mean, you would be like glitching around the map and stuff like it was bad.
Horrible.
It was real bad. I think it hit a nice sweet spot somewhere in the middle of Smash Brothers where it wasn't too competitive like Melee, which I don't really like the competitive nature of that game, but its characters were so good and the levels that, you know, it's just how it is. But I think it was competitive enough. But yeah, it was the characters that they brought in, the character choices, like you mentioned, Snake. I was a fan of them bringing in Lucario because he's my favorite Pokemon. And yeah, there's a lot of choices like that, and it felt like, you know, like at that time, that's when we were going like, oh my god, there's so many characters in this game. How can this possibly happen? Little did we know that our minds would be even more blown when the next version comes out. But up until this one, this was like it felt like the premier Smash Brothers game in terms of just pulling like fan bases all around the place together in one neat little game. And I think that was what it was best at, was pulling all of the Nintendo bases, because like you said, it got Pit and stuff like that too, where you're like, oh yeah, I remember playing those games. So I think that's what it's best known for, and that's why it's number 3, even though I don't think it was better than Melee.
Gotcha. Yeah, something else I do want to point out, it introduced the Smash Ball, which was a lot of fun for the party stuff going on. Everybody, the way that they did that was genius. Make a ball that might break, might just bounce away from you, and make everybody either chase it or have somebody kind of picking off people that are going for it because they're not paying attention. Like, I really enjoyed that. Normally when I play that game, I play, or when I used to, I play no items except for the Smash Ball. I think that's a really fun way to play it. But it allowed them to do these kind of cool finishing moves that were all, odes to their own games, basically. Which
I feel like this one had a lot more mini games and like side stuff to do than the previous one.
Subspace Emissary was so good, and that's something that it stands like higher than all the other Smash Brothers because it had a single player that's actually like a single player that had cutscenes and such, and you got to travel to all these kind of worlds that you don't go to when you're just battling each other.
That's what I liked about
that is
it.
a huge plus. I totally forgot about that.
There was a lot of wind down aspects to the game where it felt like with the other Smash games before it, the only time I had it on is when everyone had a controller in their hand ready to go, whereas this one, we could have a big epic 30-minute match. Everyone's just kind of chilling, going to the bathroom, grabbing food, drink, coming back, sort of thing to reset, and you can still kind of just play that in the meantime, sort of thing. So it had some wind down and some single player aspects that I really liked.
Absolutely. All right. Number 2. I think a lot of Wii fans are going to appreciate this one. Silent Hill Shattered Memories. Silent Hill Shattered Memories was one of the only third-party games I can think of that really utilized the system capabilities correctly. It's a survival horror game. It's rated M. And it is, I think, the Americans' best attempt at a Silent Hill game. They weren't trying to emulate the Japanese, which was a big problem that we had with other Silent Hill games for sure. They were like, what if we don't make the nightmare this fire hell? What if it's ice? So that was a really cool twist. They decided to take their own path.
This was the ice one, okay.
Yeah, they decided to take their own path with it. So when you are in, quote-unquote, the hell world for Silent Hill, everything turns to ice and freezes. And I thought that was really neat. The story of this is a reimagining of the first one, but it's not treading the same water. It is a brand new reimagined story of the first one, which is really neat, and also why it's not, why it's eligible, because it's a completely new story. The way that you control your character was the Wiimote and the nunchuck, but the nunchuck was your flashlight that you needed. So you could only really see where you were aiming the nunchuck, and it used the speaker on it very, very well. When you were aiming at quote-unquote ghosts, there's invisible things, it would start bugging out and going and freaking out, and you knew that you were getting close to something spooky scary. So I enjoyed all of that about the game, and it has a lot of fan service for Silent Hill fans. With that said,
long-time fans?
Yeah, because it's a remake of the first one, they were able to weasel in some different stuff like that. But as far as a third-party Wii game, I think that it's really cool that they built an exclusive at the time for the console, and they stuck with it. They went all in on it. It wasn't but like I said, you got your M-rated game, and the biggest thing to mention, and the reason that I actually recommend this game even to people who are into maybe not completely turned off by horror but can handle it, is the psychological aspect that Silent Hill always has, but they went really deep with it. They did kind of the Until Dawn thing, where the game opens with a quiz, basically, or a survey, and they ask you, your gender, they ask you if this were to happen, what would you do? They ask you if you're more scared of this or that. They have a whole list, and some of them are very personal questions, which was like, it's funny to watch streams of people who haven't watched or haven't seen the game before, because they'll start asking you stuff about like your sex life, and it goes deep down a rabbit hole. And the enemies change based on this. The dialogue changes based on this. And something that's really cool is the locations and things that are on the walls and rooms change based on this. So much so that I've played through this game, we'll say 10 times. It was a lot of times I played through this game. On my most recent playthrough through it, I saw a building I've never seen before because it's always been locked for me. And you go to the building on the right because that's the open building. But on my most recent playthrough, the building on the left was open and the right one was locked. And I saw an area I've literally never seen before. So it's super replayable, especially when you let somebody else play and watch, just to see what's different, because characters' clothes are different, their personalities are different, all depending on not only these quizzes, but on things like, hey, I went into the girls' bathroom before the boys' bathroom. What does that say about me?
Yeah.
I stared at, I was reading the text on the posters and the wall, I went through every locker instead of just the obvious one that you're supposed to continue. There's different things like that that really add to the experience. And like I said, it's not just these cosmetic things. It's stuff that actually affects the game. One of my favorites, and it's early on, so I don't mind spoiling it, is they give you a picture of a house, and you have to color it. And, you color the family and the house. It's just like a coloring book, and you finish it, and then the next cutscene plays, and you go to the house that you made. Cool. And the family comes through and opens the door, and they're wearing all the clothes that you colored on them. And it's really, really neat. So you can make their whole house really gross looking, or you can make it really nice. And then depending on how fast you did it, some things might be different. They might have a very aggressive, quick personality if you drew it really quickly.
Yeah.
But if you took your time, they're going to be very patient with you. There's just a lot the game does not get enough credit, and it's best played on the Wii, not close. It came out on the PS2 afterwards, but it's it doesn't run half as well. The Wiimote stuff isn't there. It just not the same experience.
Problem
really
with
good
the
game.
port. Yep.
Yeah, really, really good game.
I saw you playing a little bit, so that's why when you said the ice thing, that clued me in.
Yeah, I think you saw me playing the PS2 copy.
Yeah.
Because I grabbed that. It's been a while ago now, but I grabbed that because it's kind of a rare Silent Hill gem. Just because not many people bought it for PS2 because it was already out on Wii. So I got it, and I wanted to play through it. I actually just wanted to test it to make sure it worked, and I ended up playing through it. But anyway,
that's the best way to test it.
Yeah, that's true. Really like that game. Can't recommend it enough.
Out of left field, but
Really?
I understand your reasoning for putting it in there. Number 2, kind of the same thing, not really. Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. I'll lead off with saying this is not the best reviewed Fire Emblem game, but there's something about putting a Fire Emblem game on an actual console as opposed to basically it's going to feel like whenever they make this Pokemon console game,
Gosh,
it's going to be mind-blowing compared to all these years you've been playing it handheld. There's something about moving it to an actual console, like they did for the GameCube as well, that just makes it work right. I think this was a direct sequel to Path of Radiance right before it on the GameCube. A lot of people knock it for that. They like their, separated worlds or whatever you want to call it. But the big thing with this game is that since it got moved to the Wii, I think this was one of the first games that did the weapon forging system, the updated camera. Visuals got a little bit of a knock, but I don't think any game was put on the system for visuals. This wasn't touted as, high def next gen gaming.
It wasn't even.
It was the gimmicks, it was the controls, and it was the gameplay, much like every Nintendo system since then at least. But the soundtrack, the combat, stuff like that, this is where a lot of modern aspects of Fire Emblem, obviously we're getting 3 a year now, depending on how much you want to play them. But a lot of aspects of these modern games, I won't say started here, because like I said, there was a GameCube version of the one before it, but this kind of helped push it in a direction to where we're at today with the modern camera, like I said, and the visuals and how characters interact with each other and the forging system, just all of these systems, because that's what Fire Emblem is 10 systems all in one, intertwined. So that is what pushes or pulls people into them. A lot of those systems got refined in this version, and obviously ever since then, up until maybe Fire Emblem Warriors, graphics haven't really been the push, but now they are, now that we're into actual console Fire Emblems again. So that's kind of what made Fire Emblem Warriors from this year is what made me remember what it was like playing a
Console.
Fire Emblem, on the console again. And it's going to be nice when we get it back, I think, next year, another Fire Emblem. So I'm hoping it does the same thing for me then.
Interesting. Number 1. This is the game that I should have had on my 360 list. This is a game I probably should have had on my PS3 list, though I don't think it would have changed anything. Mega Man 9. Now, this was the first throwback game. This was the game that was like, hey, what if we made a retro game in 2008?
Yeah.
You know, like, what if we did that? And I don't think we would have this. It definitely looked very different. I don't think we'd have the Shovel Knights and such of today if they didn't do this. It does feel very at home on the Wii because you hold that Joy-Con sideways and you got an NES controller. All you can do in this game is jump and shoot. They strip down all your abilities. You can't even slide anymore. And this is actually one of the best Mega Man games. It's definitely the hardest of the classic. People get mad when people say that, but I think it's the hardest of the classic trilogy if you remove Mega Man and Bass from that, because that was kind of like a spinoff. And the game design, like the level design and stuff, did so much stuff that you just couldn't do on an NES, and you never knew that you wanted with just rotating objects that are rotating, but they're 8-bit, so it just looks really, really neat. But things that you couldn't do, the music, you wouldn't actually be able to have on an NES. So this was kind of the ultimate throwback, and the difficulty was the ultimate throwback as well, with how brutal it was. But it took a lot of cues from Mega Man 2. Its weapons that you get from beating the enemies are easily the most useful weapons in Mega Man history. They all actually do stuff in and outside of combat, which is a problem that Mega Man games have, where there's a best weapon for levels, basically, and then you switch to whatever the boss is weak to and kill them. This one lets you, like, there's a hornet that goes and fetches items and brings them back to you, so there might be something trapped or something that you want to get, but you can't get there fast enough before it goes away. You can shoot this hornet that'll go fetch it for you. There's a shield that does not break, so it's just insane. So you can activate that and run, and it doesn't go away until you get to the end of that screen. So that's really nice. There's a trident that shoots completely through walls and breaks shields. Like, they really...
Except that one shield.
I don't... What?
You said the shield that doesn't break.
Oh, sure. But you get that. So, like, there's a black hole that literally sucks up anything that's close to it, and you can aim where you want it to go. Like, they just added all of these cool ideas that I don't think they even had the ability to try and do in the other games. And like I said, it is a throwback to Mega Man 2, which is very much the most loved of the original Mega Man. So, really enjoyed this game. Totally dropped the ball about putting it on the other list. I wasn't really thinking digital games. Then I was like, oh yeah, this launched all at the same time. And like I said, at least this is its home. Nintendo is its home, and holding that controller sideways is the best way to control Mega Man. That D-pad is so nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mega Man 9.
We will not have a run back of that. Sorry to disappoint you.
Darn it.
My number 1 Wii game, and when I thought Wii, this game immediately came to mind. Obviously, Wii Sports, because I mean it's the face of the system.
Yeah, it's hard not to think about Wii Sports.
This instantly popped in my mind, and then I went, "What's 2 through 10?"
Interesting.
Xenoblade Chronicles.
Ah, that's fair.
I don't think. No, it's too hard to say. Xenoblade Chronicles, for the most part, I think a lot of people played the most recent version of Smash that has Shulk in it. And I'm pretty sure when a lot of people saw his name pop up, when Shulk is going to join the battle, they said, who is Shulk? Well, Shulk is your character in Xenoblade Chronicles. And I think what I like most about the game...
Was this his debut?
Yes.
Game?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I want to say I like most about this game compared to any other Nintendo Wii game at the time is that it had like an actual like thriving world in it. And this is stuff we know PS or Sony games for. This is stuff we know Xbox games-ish for. But like actual world building, characters, regions, Obviously you get it with Mario, you get some characters here and there, you get, the cool little kingdoms that you go to, all that stuff. Yeah, sure. But like with an actual like narrative background on it is what I like most about this one. The combat was a lot different than everything else on the Wii, and I don't think this was per se the JRPG system. So this being out there on the Wii compared to like if it had released for, like, it would have fit right at home on the PS2 or whatever, PS3, something like that. It would have fit on there a lot better, but it kind of had that Nintendo spark that, granted, I knock Nintendo a lot for their choice of game design or system design, all that stuff, but they still have, since they won and up until now, they still have what it takes to kind of grab your interest and keep a hold of it. Whether it's like the cutesy, charming characters or the soundtrack or anything like that, like Nintendo still is probably number one at just like getting you. So they got me with this game, and I think the other thing I liked a lot about it too was on top of the world, it had a soundtrack that was mind-blowing. I think I got about 3 songs in, and I stopped it, and I went to like the YouTube, and just, I got to listen to all of this. And it's like a 4 CD soundtrack because depending on what time of day you are, you get a certain melody for this time of day. If it's the morning, it's a little bit slower. It's starting to ramp up a little bit, sort of like you are in the morning. You wake up, you're groggy, you want to, you're starting to go. Daytime, it's booming. Nighttime, it slows down and like peaceful, atmospheric. So it really, this was one of the first games that did the day-night cycle, which is hit or miss in a lot of games for me. This was the one that made it feel real because, middle of the day, almost till dusk, as the music's ramped up, I'm excited. There's like cool little battle music when you're playing, so you're like getting into it, you're like hyped. And then at nighttime, you can hear all the little bugs flying around, you can hear the like peaceful everything, and then if something jumps out to get you, it's scary because it's a big monster. And in this game, you're fighting all sorts of crazy stuff, anything from like little chickens all the way up to like dinosaurs for the most part. And Shulk and his little cast of characters are really awesome. I think this is the first time I've ever heard a like pure like Aussie main character. A lot of these games are used to like the stupid little like it's a me Mario or voiceless character, voiceless characters. So it was really cool to get that like voice acting first sort of thing. Like it really felt like a PS2 game or a Sony game. It's weird, but obviously the visuals and just kind of how the characters interact makes it feel very much like a Nintendo game. So I don't know. I know we've talked before about what would happen if this franchise moved to this system, what would happen if this moved to there. This feels like Sony and Nintendo tag teamed a JRPG. And I think that's what was so off-putting at first, but then you play it and you really get into it and spend a ton of hours on it. And I don't know, it turned out to be one of the best Nintendo games I think I've ever played. And with the asterisk next to it that says I don't like Zelda and Mario very much. But I think this is such an oddball game or choice for a Nintendo system that I'm glad they took the risk on it and went with it. And obviously it's panned out to a second game. It turned out to, I guess, a spin-off version on the Wii U that if you jump back to our Wii U list, it gets mentioned in there with me and Kellen. I think he was on the Wii U list. Right. And that game gets mentioned.
Poor Kellen, no Super Mario Strikers. He wouldn't show up.
So this is an interesting franchise that I hope they continue with into the future. I guess is where I'll go with that.
So I've tallied some tallies, and
this is probably tough.
No, there's a couple tiebreak things to do. I think they're easy. There's only one that's actually a problem because something has to get knocked off the list.
Okay.
I think the tiebreakers are easy except for one. And the one that we have to knock off. But all right. So first I'll start with this. And I already cast my votes, but I want to hear yours. Xenoblade Chronicles and Mega Man 9 are tied.
Okay. Yeah, obviously.
So what are you thinking?
I think, I've never debated what's the best Mega Man game, but I feel, and I don't know which games were on Virtual Console off the top of my head, but I feel like you had your choice of the mill for the most part with Mega Man games.
Well, I mean, it has to launch on the
I know.
Wii, yeah.
But as far as like a Wii experience, I think you could get a Mega Man-like experience without that game. So I think I would put it second only for the fact that the Virtual Console exists.
Okay, I put it second because it's not exclusive.
Fair enough.
Which might give away my...
Mine was exclusive for 5 years.
So this next one is Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn.
Yeah.
Versus Silent Hill Shattered Memories.
I would put Silent Hill above it because a lot of the things that you've mentioned, the few things that I know about it personally, it feels more like, as far as the list of Silent Hill games, this is near the top. Whether you've played all the old ones or not.
Depends for people, but I would put it at the top for sure.
Yeah.
Near the top.
Well, I mean, a lot of the things you talked about, too, really fit with the Wii. And a big knock against Fire Emblem, this one specifically, is that I don't think it used any motion controls. So it could have been any old system that it was put on. So that's why I would put it below.
All right,
and it's middle of the pack as far as best Fire Emblem game.
Right.
I mean, you have like 30 now to choose from, but it's kind of in the middle. So.
Let's do a difficult one. Smash Bros. Brawl versus Mario Kart Wii. It's tough.
I think because I said and believe that Brawl is third. Well, there's 4, right? Yeah. Third on the Smash list, and I would put Mario Kart Wii top 3 for me. I think that's what gets it for me as far as
Kart should go.
Yeah, I think Kart should go above it.
It's also just more
something about that.
Something about me being like, if you only get 2 Wii games,
yeah,
I'm gonna recommend the.
Obviously, anyone's gonna get both of these games.
That's right.
But it was something about that steering wheel accessory. I don't know. It was so good.
All right, here's the big one. This one has one that knocks the other one
tough one
off the list. I don't think it's tough, but it has one that knocks the other one off the list. So, Tatsunoko versus Capcom versus Super Mario Galaxy.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. I'm not gonna be that guy. Okay. No, I got Galaxy, just a Galaxy.
Galaxy 1.
You put yours lower than so Galaxy 1. Okay.
All right.
But you should still play Tatsunoko versus Capcom.
Sure. And number 11 is a solid place to be. So here's the list. I'm going to go ahead and say it. This might be the best list we've done. This list is really good.
It's because we don't have that third guy over here stirring it up now.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Number 10, Super Mario Galaxy. Number 9, No More Heroes 2.
Nice.
Number 8, Wii Sports. Number 7, Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. Number 6, Silent Hill Shattered Memories. Number 5, Mega Man 9. Number 4, Xenoblade Chronicles. Number 3, Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Number 2, Mario Kart Wii. And number 1, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword.
That's a nice variety.
It's a good variety. It's a lot of exclusives. It's a lot of games that need to be on the Wii or else they don't work. Like, honestly, Mega Man and maybe, I guess, No More Heroes are like the only 2 that... I guess Fire Emblem with what you said. I haven't played that one. But, like, they at least use the Wii's capabilities. Yeah. I'm actually shocked that Zelda made it to the top because I was worried Zelda wasn't going to make it on the list and we were going to get chewed out. But look at that. It became number 1.
Somehow, some way.
Yeah, look at that. I think this list is great. And I think I've said that I think we're getting better at this as we go on. But I think our 3DS list was really good. And I think this was now the best list. Can't wait to fight over the PS2 and Xbox ones because I will not agree with those lists, but we'll see how that goes.
Xbox, I might get heated up about. PS2, it would take a lot for me to even move something up and down. Like, it is very concrete. Like, I knew I had my 15 games to choose from.
I know. And then I guarantee you they're different than my 15 games.
And by 15 games, I mean I'm just like my 15 games.
And that's what's going to make it fun.
Xbox, simple. I've had that list for years. But, yeah, I mean, I'm glad no one came in here to fight us while we were talking about it, because obviously number 4 for both of us, Legend of Zelda, hey, it rose to the top just because we have different number 1s. So, yeah, I agree. These lists have a way of working themselves out, at least with 2 people.
Yeah.
3 people, the number...
Mario Strikers
the
would have been
number
his
scheme.
number 1.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with Mario Strikers.
It's easier breaking tiebreakers than 3 people, though.
Yeah, but at least with 2 people, the number game doesn't get you as bad. But yeah, this is a nice variety. I think this is probably the most diverse that we've had.
The Vita list was pretty close, but I don't know. I don't remember that off the top. But this is very lots of variety. All right,
I need to go back and look at these next to each other.
That's it for this episode of the Press X podcast. Please leave your top 10 Wii recommendations, I will say, down below, and we'll check them out and see how they compare to our list. I wish I said that at the beginning of the show, and then you could look at it at the end, but I already messed it up. I'm not editing it in. Oh, well.
They would have been so angry at my placement.
They would have left
Mario.
the video already. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for being here, Nick.
Uh-huh.
And thank you so much for watching. We'll speak with you next time.